Hello and welcome to another episode of the Revel Flow Podcast. I'm your host, Flo. This week, I have another one of my friends from college on who is doing incredible things in the film industry. She's a producer, writer, works in animation, experiential media, and live action commercials. She worked with Kia to produce a Times Square takeover campaign for a new product reveal. And she's currently working on writing and directing a documentary feature that is now in post-production and is producing a video series for a law firm in Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome to Addison Forras. Welcome, Addison Forras. Welcome to Addison Forras. Oh my gosh.
Welcome to me.
Welcome to You're the Experience. Just for context, I got to know Addi back at North Greenville University back in the day. We won't say how long ago it was, but so I went for Victory Lap. So I finished in 2014. Gosh, it's still so crazy to think about that. It was like over a decade ago. It hurts a little bit. It doesn't feel that long ago.
No, it doesn't. You know, the stretch from high school to college seemed like eternity. And then after college, it's all just zipped by in the blink of an eye.
I remember being in college being like, man, when I'm in my 30s, I'm going to be having it all together and I'm going to be old and just like my 401k is probably going to be ready for me. And here I am.
Yeah, we're still kids. We're still kids.
It's so strange. The older you get, the more you realize nobody.
I know nothing.
Yeah, nobody does.
No, we're all just pretending and making it up as we go.
Yeah, it's just like playing and it's good if you see it that way, right?
Exactly.
But when I did get to know you in college, you were involved, you were a theater major and you were in a lot of plays, and now you are more behind the scenes, behind the camera. So what was the transition? Like what made you go from performance to producing?
That is a windy turning road to get here. Yeah, I didn't go to film school. I didn't get like a traditional project management certification or anything like that. It kind of was just like me jumping in and trying different things until I landed where I am now. But the path to get here, I did theater in college and I did it all throughout high school and had a lot of fun with it. And there's still a place in my heart that loves theater. But after doing it for 4 years, I was done. I was really done with it. But in my time at North Greenville, I worked on friends' short films and media projects and just helped out and really enjoyed the process. And it kind of reminded me of why I got into theater in the first place, of just the creating and storytelling. And there's also a part of me that's really a nerd and loves technology and loves innovative, just seeing what the new technology is to make things happen and to tell stories. So there's a part that theater kind of has that, but film really has that aspect. And so after graduating and being really burnt out of theater, I'm like, I really want to try to pursue the path of media, film, commercials, something like that. So I didn't know exactly where to start and I was very lost for a couple years, but I had to make money. So I got a job at a staffing agency, or like a temp agency. And I worked for a financial planning company for a couple years, a wealth management company, which seems very unrelated, but I learned so much about money management and time management and spreadsheets and budgeting. And it really helped me grow up as a professional. I got to a point, I had worked there for 2 years. And I have to say, like, most of these 2 years, half of the week, I was in the office by myself. It was a really small office and I worked for one lady and half the week she wasn't even there. So I was running this office by myself. I had so much free time that when I wasn't doing her work, I was writing scripts and self-taping auditions for, trying to do the auditioning thing. And so I had a lot of time to just kind of like play around and explore. After those 2 years, it got to the point where my boss was really pushing me, like, let's take the next step. Let's get you certified with your Series 7 so that you can start managing people's accounts and buying stocks and trading in the market. So I got the books, I started studying, and I had a moment of panic where I'm like, wait, pump the brakes. I don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life. I don't want to be like spending money on these exams and all this time and watch my life just kind of fly by and get really entrenched in this career that would be very financially rewarding. I'll give you that, but not emotionally rewarding or creatively rewarding. It got to this point of kind of like a crossroads where like I could continue this path and be very well supported, or I could make the jump now, because the longer I wait, it's going to be harder to make that jump. So thankfully, and to the detriment of my parents, I'm sure, I made the jump. And I said goodbye to my dear friends at the wealth management company and got a entry-level job at a production company in Seattle. It was very entry-level, and it was a weird job because it was not a traditional production company. It was more like a staffing agency for commercials and video shoots, specifically for Amazon and Microsoft were our two big clients. I worked with this staffing company, but that really was a training ground for me to learn what everyone does on set and behind the scenes in post-production. I would get these project postings, and I would put the crews together and send them out. So learning kind of like what personalities work together, what creative styles work together. For me, that was my film school, if you want to call it. So I grew in that company until I was a production manager with them. And I sat on site at Amazon and helped produce some video series that they did called What's New at AWS, and worked on that one for a little while. And then I moved to Nashville. That was 4 years ago. End of 2019, I moved to Nashville.
That was good timing.
Yeah, yes, it was good timing because I happened to get a job with a studio here in town, and I worked for maybe maybe like 2 months before COVID happened and everything shut down. Everyone was sent home to work remotely. The good thing, though, was I was hired on the animation and post-production side. And during 2020, all live action pretty much shut down for a while. And animation, at least for us, animation boomed. Like everyone that couldn't do traditional commercials were doing animated commercials or ads, social media ads, or Zoom events that had, animated content incorporated into it. And so I worked so much during probably like 2020 through 2022. I worked so much and learned and grew a lot. That's how I kind of transitioned into production management and project management into lead producing with this one company I was with. That's kind of how I ended up here.
Wow. That is a windy road, but it also weirdly makes sense. Like you were saying with the financial job, wealth management, you learned a lot of skills that you use in producing.
Yeah.
Because that's a very organized, heavy role. You have to know all the moving parts and budgets and everything like that. So it's weird. It's not weird, but it's more common, I think, than people realize. Like those jobs you think are so random really just prepare you for any type of field that you want to work on. And yeah, it was like a God bless the broken road kind of moment.
God bless the broken road. So
a little country Tennessee. I know you get it.
Hey, I'm in Nashville, so it works.
Right. We'll just have to add in a few more y'alls and really bring it home.
Bring my cowboy boots.
I don't think they let you in Nashville unless you have a pair of cowboy boots.
They have to be pink and sparkly too.
Oh, good. Oh, darn. Mine are purple. Oh, well, it's fine. I'll try Knoxville, I guess. But
yeah, I guess so.
And then there was something. Moving the timeline, the job you got within animation, like that timing is incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Like
totally. I couldn't have planned that at all. I mean, it was totally unexpected and just worked out so well. And I don't say it was easy or that I had a lot of learning and growing up to do, and managing my time and myself working from home was also an adjustment too.
Did you have your firstborn yet? Your son yet?
Yeah. So he was born in Seattle while I was working at Amazon. So that I took a couple months off, I took 3 months off from my job when he was born, but I was so ready to go back to work. And I did the whole like newborn working mom where I don't know if this is TMI, but I would go like off set to go pump and then try to find a freezer somewhere on set that I could store the milk in. And I did that, figured that out for a while. So he was a little guy while I was working for the animation studio. Thankfully, we found a good daycare for him to start going to, because it was hard working from home with him also being home. He means well, but he was 2 at the time. So it was all, mom.
Right in the middle of a Zoom call too. You're like,
exactly. I know. Yep. His little fingers under the locked door. Are you there?
Mine does, where if I'm not talking, she thinks it's good to go to talk because I'm not talking. So
Yes.
she's like, oh, this is my moment. No,
Yeah.
it's tricky. It's tricky. And it's one of those things like you love them so much, but you're like, please, one moment.
Yes.
But
Peace out. Yeah. You try not
yeah,
to let the rage come out.
you're like, I don't want to
Leave the
give you something to
room.
talk about in therapy later.
Exactly.
I feel like the 2020, the COVID time, not that I would wish it on anyone, but like that time was a big development for a lot of people. Like I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like even for myself, like finding what I was actually passionate about, it almost,
Mhm.
not for you that it didn't give you a pause, but I feel like, because that's when you were really ramping up, right? But
Yeah.
it did allow you to more play in a field that you got to grow in. And I think
Yeah.
I want to call out too the fact that you had a very stable thing going that would have set you up so like it was something that could be very predictable. You could have made bukus of money, right? But the fact that you took a risk and chose work that you knew would give your soul longevity,
Mhm.
like your self longevity,
Yeah.
and be more fulfilling, like kudos, because that's one of the scariest decisions people can make.
Yeah.
Stability or like potential high risk, but
Yeah.
it's obviously you've gotten success from it. And so I'm
Well, and
just
I
glad that
have
story's
those.
out there.
Yeah, and thank you for calling that out. And I have that same moment of like, I get restless really easily. And every few years, I have this kind of like, am I doing what I want to be doing? Am I fulfilled? Am I growing or am I stagnant? And so it happened there. And there was so many days where I was just like, what am I doing? I want to be doing this thing, but I don't know how to get there. And I'm like envisioning myself 5, 10 years in the future, but not looking at like what's the first step that I can make right now. And so I do that a lot. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I want to be directing a movie or something like that. Like, you got some more steps
Right.
to take first.
Learn how to work white balance first and then
Exactly.
we'll
There's
get there.
so much I need to learn and so much more confidence to gain. And so I still feel like I'm very much at the beginning of my journey, my producing journey.
And it's interesting because like as someone who doesn't work in that field, it looks like you're going straight after it and
It's
being
all
really successful.
marketing myself.
Right. That is the biggest challenge, I think. And the reason people don't step out is because they see the vision of like the
Mhm.
end goal, but
Mhm.
they don't know the first step. It's scary because it is a huge jump. If you just look at where you're at currently to where you want to be, it's huge. And that
Mhm.
is impossible unless you know the next step. So if you look back on that time, what was it like fumbling through finding that next step and then realizing you were getting momentum? Like, do you remember what that process was like?
I do. But it's more like I didn't see it at the time until I looked back on it. Like even preparing for this podcast, I was just really wrestling with like, what have I done? What's worth talking about? But when I look back at kind of like, okay, let's rewind like what, 6, 7 years ago and think about the steps and all the things that happened along the way. It's like, oh, I do. There was growth. Growth could be seen. And I learned so much and I did things that I can be proud of. But when it's happening, it's like I don't realize it. I'm just like doing what needs to be done
Yeah, totally.
on a daily basis. Yeah.
It almost feels like survival mode for a minute
Yeah.
and then like pausing and coming up for air. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm way far off the
Yeah.
coast.
Right. I know. And I mean, it's kind of a side tangent. I have twins
Yes.
and they're 2 now. And I feel like I've been in survival mode with them for the past 2 years. And in my mind, I feel like they're still newborns. But then I can
Yeah.
look, okay, like step out, bird's eye view, look at them. They're talking, they're learning to talk, they're like feeding themselves with spoons, just things like that. That I'm like, oh, we're getting out of it. Like we're growing, we're growing
Yeah.
together. Things
Yeah.
are getting easier, and I'm growing in like knowledge and confidence of raising them, but still like so much I don't know.
I think it's good though. And that's like where community comes in to call that stuff out of you too. Like one, it kind of helps give you a little bit more wind into your sails. Like, no, I have accomplished a lot.
Mhm.
And you have 3 boys, like little kids. And
Yeah.
that in itself is more than a full-time job. And you're also like, you're doing them a service by also pursuing your passion too, by
Mhm.
going after it. I feel like mom guilt is so easy to get
Oh
when you're
my.
like, oh, what? But like the fact that you are going after something that you know brings you life and makes you feel fulfilled, that benefits them so much to see their mom do that. So like, kudos, dude. That is not easy.
You too. And I'm sure you can relate, and maybe you can relate to this, but I feel like I honor so much to the women who are like, I want to be a stay-at-home mom, but
Totally.
I feel like for myself, I'm a better mom when I have a creative outlet or a professional outlet. And not that I'm going to be a workaholic. Like, I'm trying to find that balance, but I feel like I'm a better worker when I have the mom aspect, and I have a better mom when I have the work aspect.
Totally.
So I know I'm just a better person when I kind of have that rounded aspect to me, and I have time away from my kids.
Yeah. I think it's important to have, I agree that like the whole stay-at-home mom thing, it is an incredible task. It is definitely something worth giving your time to, especially when that makes you feel like you're giving your best self to them. And for your point of saying like, my best self is when I'm creating, producing, as well as balancing. Like, I remember when I had my kid, I was like, how did I go through life before? I was so aimless. And now I feel like I have
so lazy.
I was like, free time. All right.
Oh my gosh.
No. But like,
my
it gives
husband
you
and I talked
aim.
about that a lot when we were first married in our mid-20s and didn't have kids. And we worked hard too, but then just like on the weekends, like, what do we do with ourselves? Like, we were so lazy, and like all that free time that we don't have anymore.
Right. And it's weird how your capacity expands too. Like, yes, I'm a little bit more tired. Your capacity, it opens up a lot. It's crazy what kids will do. And I wouldn't force like anyone to have a child, right? I wouldn't be like, you need to have kids. But like, if it happens, it's the best thing for perspective and just, it's so good.
I would say there's like parts of me that are core, pillars of my personality and of myself, and motherhood is one of them. Producer is one of them. So it all ties in together.
I want to talk about another one of your cores that you knew was coming. Growing up in the Philippines.
Yes.
Talk about, because you are Filipino at heart, right?
Yeah.
But a United States citizen. Like, talk about how you got there. And I know your parents were missionaries. So what was that like?
Yeah, my parents were missionaries. My dad was actually a missionary kid too. He was an MK to Kenya. His parents worked their whole adult lives there in Kenya and retired there. So I think my dad always had that itch to always return back to, not necessarily to Kenya, but to another foreign country. And my parents felt the call to missions, and I don't know if I can't see if they were assigned to the Philippines or chose the Philippines, maybe assigned. But we were sent to the Philippines, and I moved there when I was 5.5 and grew up there. I lived there all throughout my childhood, went to high school there and graduated from a international school in Manila and moved back for college. So I was fully raised in the Philippines. Sometimes we would come back for a few months to Kentucky, where my mom's family's from. Actually, all my grandparents are originally from Kentucky. Yeah, we would have furloughs that we called them, where we'd stay there for a few months and visit churches and just kind of like have a break. And I do say Filipino at heart. It's very much a part of my personality and self. But
you speak Tagalog, I'm guessing. That's the
language. I do. I am out of practice, so I'm not going to embarrass myself and say anything here, but I can read
completely make something up, and I'd be like, wow, like it's Pig Latin. I'd be so impressed.
Someone will fact check me.
Right.
No, I will say, you remember Derby, Jonathan Derby? Yeah. He was fluent in Thai. And he would quiz me on like, how fluent are you in your language? And I would try, but I would say a lot of ums, and I would get caught up. He's like, you're not fluent.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, okay.
Derby.
Here's the difference though. In the Philippines, you can get away with speaking English because everyone learns English from the time like kindergarten on. So they see someone like me, they want to practice their English with me. So it's like, I didn't have to learn the language, which I regret not learning more of it. But yeah, I can get around, I guess.
Right. I did. So we had a lot of, at least a few North Greenville people that were missionary kids from the Philippines, like Hannah, now Scarborough, Hannah too.
Yes.
And the other Hannah.
Yeah.
Did you ever see them there?
Yeah. Actually, me and Hannah, our parents were sent to the Philippines at the same time. They were commissioned from and part of the same group. So I met Hannah when I was like 5 years old, and we went to like this little like training camp together. And so she lived in a different part of the country from me. So we would see each other maybe every couple years. Yeah. Me and Hannah go way back.
That's so fun. And then ended up in the same college, and that had to help too, like transitioning into college, like having people who understood you at a little bit, you know?
Yeah, it was funny though, because I went from one bubble to another bubble, because I went from like the MK, and I was homeschooled for a while too. So like the MK homeschool international group bubble, and then went to North Greenville where I joined the theater department, which had a high percentage of missionary kids and homeschoolers. I think it just draws out the quirky, quirky folks.
That's a good word.
So I felt like I went from one group of like-minded folk to another. And so I feel like I didn't really have much of a culture shock until after I left North Greenville. Yeah,
I feel like everyone who went to North Greenville, I felt like I had a culture shock. I went to public school growing up, and then I went to the North Greenville bubble. But it was good. Shock. You know, I went, it was like, because I grew up in a Christian home and pastor's kid, so like similar to MK vibes a little bit. Yeah. But then like leaving a Christian school and hearing other people's college experiences, I was like, did I go to college? Like, it's so different.
It really felt like, I guess because, you know, I did theater, and just the way we were tucked up kind of in the mountains, I felt like I went to camp for 4 years. Like, it just felt like summer camp for 4 consecutive years. It was a good time. It was very
fun. Wouldn't trade it for sure. Like, I'm glad that was my experience for college.
Yeah. It was awesome. Very special. I do feel like sometimes I wonder, like, I wish I had gone to a more like prestigious school or something that would have gotten me more connections in theater and film. I don't know, New York, LA, something like that in a big city. But like, I had such a special lightning in a bottle experience at North Greenville. And so like, I can't trade that.
Yeah. And where else would you go where you meet people so like-minded that they respect the high holiday of Labor Day so strongly?
Labor Day. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was so funny and random.
It was, but like, it felt so right. So just for context for people, like Labor Day weekend, because it was such a small school, like everybody went home. But for the select few of us who weren't like
homes were too far away.
Too far, we all stayed on campus for Labor Day. And we're like, you know what? This is going to be the best Labor Day. People are going to be talking about Labor Day after this weekend. Yeah. We made puff paint shirts. We had a photo shoot.
T-shirts. Yep. We all like slept in that one, I guess it was your cabin, dorm cabin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The clinic apartments.
We watched movies. We played games and had snacks for like a 3-day weekend. It was so fun.
Yeah. And it's now my favorite holiday.
Oh my God.
I'm sure I still have that shirt somewhere.
Didn't we just Labor Day this Monday? And I was thinking about, Labor Day. Not Labor Day in a while.
Well, I posted that picture from like, there was this Instagram thing where it was like, post your hardest picture from college. And it was us in the Labor Day shirts.
Just like
half of us picking our nose. I will post that picture for college. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. No, it was good times. No, it was a very special experience for sure.
Yeah, I love that.
Not to like completely transition out of college because like it's always just fun to reminisce. I've come to find like this podcast started as creative strategy, finding ways to be creative within like any kind of problem solving, not just within like creative fields, but it's kind of come as a pattern of my guests that most of them work in the creative industry. And they don't have a typical 9-to-5 or a traditional 9-to-5. And so like, because they don't have a set schedule like that, it's trickier to find moments of rest or find moments to gain inspiration. So how do you, and I get with 3 littles that maybe it doesn't exist, but how do you find a way for you to feel like recharged or rested to stay inspired?
Yeah, it is hard to come by with the 3 little ones, but I will say, I really feel rest when I'm doing something like gardening or taking a walk or going for a drive, just kind of like aimlessly driving around. And I think for me, it's like, I could have said, okay, just laying on the couch and scrolling on my phone, but that doesn't feel like rest to me. It feels almost more tiring.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like zoning out, but not really restful. productive rest, as some would say. Yeah, the gardening thing, being outside and working with my hands, doing something like physical, but letting my mind wander and letting my mind be quiet is truly restful to me. Yeah, that's a big one. But then also you can like step back and look at the progress you made in your yard and your garden. So it's productive too.
Yeah, that seems consistent in that a lot of people I've asked this similar question to, they'll either say something similar or something like working out. It's anything that's like physical. One of the guys I interviewed, he would go work on his friend's farm and just like recharge and get to use the big machinery.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, we're not meant to sit all day long, you know, we're meant to be creative, not only like mentally, but like physically doing stuff with our hands. So I think that's a huge
and
key.
to tag off one of your questions that you sent me was like, where do I find inspiration?
Yeah.
And also where I find most inspiration is doing something like gardening or going for a walk or physically doing something, but my mind is kind of free to explore. And it's not from watching other movies or other shows or being on my phone. Because I feel like times that I'm like, okay, I need to get something done, or I need some creative inspiration somewhere. I have to step back and turn off screens, turn off movies. Because something about watching somebody else's work makes me frustrated and makes me feel like uninspired. I don't know, like depressed.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'll never achieve that. Or, oh, that's too similar to something I'm thinking about. But if I can have like the quiet to just think it through and ask questions, that's where I feel like I'm finding answers and inspiration.
Yeah, I would guess like watching someone else's thing, it makes you look through that lens for your project. You said you're constantly comparing, where if you completely take yourself out of that, you take off all the boundaries, all the parameters, all the rules of what's supposed to be, or like
what someone else is trying. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can actually have true creativity. And then, you know, you go back and then you can edit, produce, whatever. But I think it's really important. That's definitely a good key as well to like stay inspired. That's something I've always wanted to get into, like gardening. I currently have a succulent that's like suffering for its life right now, which is like the easiest plant to take care of.
I can't do houseplants. No, I can't do anything in a pot. It has to be in the ground, naturally growing.
Yeah, like it knows what it's doing.
Yeah, supposed to be there.
Yeah. So to talk about your current documentary feature, is there things that are hush hush or things you're able to kind of talk about with it?
Yeah, it's a personal project. So how it came about was after I had taken time off from having the twins and I was ready to go back to work. I posted on LinkedIn that I was like, hello, everyone, I'm back to work. I'm ready to take on jobs again. And my father-in-law, my husband's dad, reached out via LinkedIn, which is funny because we see them on a weekly basis. Like we have dinners with them all the time. But he went through LinkedIn, messaged me on LinkedIn and said, hey, Addi, I would like to hire you to make a film about my mom. So his mom, my husband's grandma. So very, very generous of him. He set aside a budget for me to get some gear and hire a couple people to help me out. But basically, he just wanted to capture his mom's story with the time that we have left with her. Just allow her to tell her story and get interview from the family. So it's a glorified family project, but it's been a really great experience for me to really make it special and take everything I've learned and what I know to this project and apply it. So I've been able to spend a lot of time just one-on-one with her and just filming her talking and telling stories. But also we digitized a ton of old family films and Super 8s and 8mm and VHSs and are able to use that. And I was able to take a trip over to Seattle a few months ago and get all the family on that side of the country together and interview them, just telling stories about grandma and their favorite memories about grandma and things that they want to take, like learn from her and apply to their own life. And so it's just been really sweet. And what's been great is there was no script, it's all kind of coming together after having filmed it. And so it's kind of like writing in reverse. but I've really enjoyed it. It's because it's been very organic. And it's like, okay, this is what we have to work with, and let's see what we can make out of it. And then if like, oh, we're missing, we wish we could get more to this story, I can go down their street and get more from her. It's not like at least right now, my time with her is not limited. So it's been fun. So I have a editor friend helping me right now put it together, and we're just sharing drafts back and forth. And then I have a coworker of mine who's a really talented colorist who's going to go through and make it look pretty.
For that kind of story, like I would guess, I don't know much about creating a documentary, but I would guess you kind of go in knowing the thread, like the story, the thread all the way through. But with that, you get to just kind of collect everything and then make it into a puzzle. How did you create like a through line through the whole story, or was it
kind of both? So the first day I ever brought a camera to grandma's house and started talking to her, as she's telling stories, there are certain things about her story that's kind of highlighting to me, or like jumping out to me, like, that's juicy, that's good, I want to hear more about that. So that kind of brought that home and wrote sort of a very general outline of a script of like, this is the story I want to tell with her. And this is the way I think there would be a nice narrative arc to these family stories, these memories. Because and something I struggle with is like, okay, grandma is a wonderful person, but there's nothing like mind blowing about her story. It's like you see these stories of like, I can't believe this happened. Like, this has never happened to anybody else. It's someone's life, and it's worth being told. And so just finding a way to bring some kind of like conflict and climax to the story, and it's just putting it together. So yeah, there was an outline. And so then I kind of had a guidepost of like, these are the kind of questions I want to ask the other members of the family to feed into this kind of outline. These are the points I want to get more information about. And so it's kind of like hand holding in that way.
It's definitely I would assume like a different way of having to write, where like the information's already there, but it is like just a big puzzle of putting it all together.
Yeah, it does feel like a puzzle.
Like a lot of problem solving in there as well, like deciding how you can be the most honest through telling this story, but still keep it flowing well, like you're saying, creating those arcs and stuff. And I agree, like stories of everyday people, I think people, because it is literally relatable, I think people can gravitate to those because they can actually feel it. And it's like, oh, they're watching their grandma,
Yeah.
So it's really cool to put those.
That's exactly it. Yeah. I want to kind of like remind us of all of our grandmas and our mother.
I think that's such a cool project. Has there been an aspect with that one specifically where you've had like a challenge come up, or has it been pretty much just kind of step by step, figure it out as you go?
This one has been nice because we're very much not on a schedule. It's kind of just like when we have time. We don't want it to be drawn out for years and years. We want to get it done as soon as we can, but it's kind of like when we have time and as the pieces are coming together. I think a challenge that I ran into is that I was going to use another editor that I was really excited to work with. And I'm happy for him, but he got really busy with his full-time job and just couldn't do it. And so I had a moment of kind of like, oh no, like I can't edit it. Like I can do very basic editing, but I can't, this is a very like too large for me to get all the pieces together. It's like, I need somebody who can find their way around Premiere Pro and After Effects. So that was kind of like a moment of like, okay, pivot, let's find somebody new who's available and who's like got the vision for this and is willing to work for just a little bit of money.
Yeah. I feel like picking the team is probably the biggest, not maybe challenge, but definitely the biggest factor. How do you resource your team? Is it usually people within your circle already, or?
Well, for this particular job, it's all people I've worked with before with my full-time job or the full-time job I had before. People that were either on staff or that we'd hired as freelancers and then I had just developed relationships with. Yeah, every job that I've worked, I've kept those contacts and just kind of built my roster of like people that I know, and I reach out to them every once in a while just to check in. But I love, not in a weird way, but I love collecting people. I love collecting this group of people and keeping track of like the really talented and wonderful, true people. Yeah, honest people that are, just good to work with.
I think that's a big factor too. Like it's one thing to work with the talent, but then another layer of also just enjoying the people.
Yes.
I feel like you
Because
just
I've
get
worked with
better
some
projects.
talented people that are just terrible to work with. I've
Really?
worked with too many of those too.
And I was just thinking as you were talking about how you're now telling the story of Cameron's grandma and how like you're finding all of these pieces, and I would assume you're seeing like life lessons and just like how someone's developed over time, and just like tying that in when you were kind of reflecting on your life, you're like, what have I done? But you're like doing that for someone else now.
I'm telling someone else's story.
Yes.
Wow, I didn't even think about that. But that's so true, because I know she's even said something like, don't film me. I have nothing to say. Like, I don't have any stories. I don't have any good stories, but like she does.
Yes.
And she has hundreds of people who she's affected and mothered also. Like, she's been a second mother to so many people and really changed their lives. So it's, yeah, it does. Like, I think you said this earlier, it takes your village, your community, and kind of like an outside person to like reflect back to you. Like, this is this is how you're seen, and this is what you've done. Kind of step outside of yourself too, to assess yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. I think stories are just very important. And again, putting it back to you, not thinking like, what do I have to offer? Like, even just reflecting on this past conversation, I feel like you've given out so many keys for people too, just to like even take risk and like, okay, what could that look like? I think that's really cool. And then you yourself are telling a story like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool parallel.
It all comes back, all circular.
Yeah. And then you're also producing for a law firm. Is that a current project as well? Yeah.
Yeah. I worked on a couple shoots for them last year. So I'm just kind of helping behind the scenes remotely for them. But that one's just a freelance job. So yeah, that one's been fun though, because like I said, the law firm aspect of it, we shot like a mock deposition, and they're shooting a mock court case trial. So it feels very much like a courtroom drama. And I get to observe it. It's fun. And
it's probably just like a different type of craft even in itself, right? You have to dress it up differently. And yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that one feels good because it's pretty low stakes, small crew, but the clients are so happy. Like, anything we bring to the table and anything we show them, they're like so happy. And this is their first time doing something like this too. So it feels nice that they're happy and that they're taken care of. Yeah. And you're like, okay, good. I'm meeting expectation. Like that in itself is so satisfying. I know. That's why I'm like, earlier I said, I sometimes do live action commercials. I'm hesitant to work on really big commercials because that's a whole ecosystem and world in itself that I'm not super familiar or comfortable with. Very like hierarchy of roles, and the people that work in commercials, they're good at it. They know what they're doing. And so I feel like I kind of exist in this other like small video series and animated stuff in post. So yeah. Yeah. And still building the skill set too. Yeah. I think that's very cool. Do you have a specific thing? I know, I feel like with creatives, it's very much kind of like a moving target as far as like what your favorite thing is right now about what you do, where I think for me, at least, it like changes daily. Like Do you have a favorite aspect, whether it's within producing or writing? What do you enjoy the most right now? My favorite part about my job, and this is just consistent across the board, is supporting and advocating for artists. Because I think there's a part of me that's an artist, but I'm not an artist in the sense that I sit down and animate or I edit. But I love being the person that removes roadblocks for the artists and checks in with them and helps them like get their work done and stays on the good side of the client. I love that. I love helping them create their best work and kind of being their advocate. So that's my favorite part of producing. Like championing. Yes. That's great. I'm patron of the arts? Yeah. Patron. Sorry, my lights. Anytime my air kicks on, I live in an old house and it goes like, oh yeah. It actually turns 100 years old next year, and I'm going to throw a centennial party. That's so cool. I would love to be in an older home that's been taken care of. You know? Yeah, it's definitely 100 years old, but oh wow. And it's one of those homes, me and my husband joke, because I feel like I lived in a haunted house when I lived in Greenville, but I'm like, it's 100 years old. Someone has definitely died in here for sure. Oh my God. For sure. But it's okay. They're nice.
The odds are for that.
The
For
odds
sure.
are high. Do you have any personal projects you're working on right now? Like I realize that documentary is
Mhm.
it's also a personal project that you're
Yeah.
getting paid for, which is amazing. Do you have anything, if I guess raising your family, it's definitely a
Yeah.
personal project.
I would say I really do want to get back into writing because writing is a creative outlet that I wouldn't say I love writing because it's hard, but I really take pride and fulfillment in writing. And I have seasons where I write a lot and I have seasons where I don't touch writing, you know? So I'm looking forward to, as my boys are getting bigger and becoming a little less reliant on me and more autonomous, that I can kind of have the energy and the space to get back into writing, because it really is, writing is like therapy for me. It's how I've processed all the biggest kind of like traumas and questions and world events. I filter it through writing, and it's kind of how I've wrestled with these ideas. So yeah, I feel like I'm due for some writing again.
Yeah. What would your like ideal writing project be? Would it be a screenplay, a full feature?
Probably a screenplay. Yeah, I do have several that are unfinished and unproduced that I want to actually finish and get made, or at least just finish, you know, and get to a done point. Which, are they ever done? You know, people say that you're never done. You're never going to be totally happy with it. Yeah, I want to get those finished and start some new ones. And just sitting down on a daily basis and writing a poem or a kind of like free flow stream of consciousness piece, just putting my hands down to the keyboard and getting it done, or putting a pen to paper and just kind of getting some thoughts out, because it really helps me put words to my feelings.
It's like one of those things, once you start, it becomes easier as far as like someone, do you remember Alex Colbert from college?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, he was, I want to give him credit because he was the one that told me this. I don't know if it's his original thought, but he introduced me to the 2-minute idea, where if you like just commit 2 minutes, and you could stop at 2 minutes if you want to. But more times than not, you just like, you want to
keep going. Yes. Yeah. There was one point, and it was during 2020, where everyone was dealing with it was during 2020 that I really had reached a breaking point where I need to get these thoughts out and I need to sit down and write this. And I only had one child back then, I will say, and he went to bed at 7 p.m. So
beautiful.
Every day, yeah, thankfully. Every day, there was like a 3-month chunk of time where every day I would put him to bed at 7, and from 7 to 8, I would write. And that's how I finished one of like my longest scripts. Was I really made a daily habit of writing. And I was so glad and proud that I did that, but it was hard. It was hard to get started. But then once, like you said, once you do get going and the momentum picks up, you can't stop. Mm-hmm.
That's incredible still. But yeah, and it looks different in different seasons too. And just like allowing it to look different, you know?
Yeah, I have to we have to give ourselves grace for the hard seasons. And so like one day it will be different. It will get easier. The time will be distributed some other way.
Okay. So you've given a lot of keys already, but is there anything you would like to leave the listeners with as far as a game changer that you've experienced for yourself?
Sure. I feel like it all kind of accumulates to this idea that I say kind of jokingly, and it sounds kind of morbid, but you're not dead yet. I always say that to my husband and to people. I'm like, hey, you're not dead yet. Like, you're not happy with something that's going on right now. Change it. Try something new. Like, pick up a new hobby, try a new career. Like, don't let yourself get stuck and don't let yourself feel like the victim of your circumstances. And I know people really struggle with that, but as long as you're living, you can try something new and shoot big or shoot small. Like, just try something, one change. Yeah. And it could affect your life immensely.
Yeah. Either a positive outcome or a nice learning experience.
Like, we'll do that again.
I love that. I love that idea. It like takes the excuses out. It's like, you're right. I can try something new.
Yeah. And I think also just like finding the humor or like not taking yourself too seriously, like laugh with yourself. You tried something new. It didn't work. You learned something, but at least you didn't sit in your pity or your unhappiness. And so, yeah, you're not dead yet.
I love that. That's what the episode's going to be called. I love that. Well, Addi, thank you so much for being on. This has been everything I imagined. It was a pleasure. We
Yay!
laughed, we reminisced, but we'll have to get the families together for that next Labor Day. You know what I mean? Just really go hard.
Kids, make some Labor Day t-shirts. Sure.
Break that
Thank
puff
you
paint.
so much for inviting me on this. I was truly, truly honored and flattered. So thank you.
Yeah. Of course. Your story is definitely worth telling. So I appreciate you being on.
Yours is too.
Oh,
Yours too, Flo.
thank you. All right. I'll see ya.
All right. Bye.
Bye.